Okay, so I'm ready whenever you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
So, hey everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hello, and if you're coming back, thank you. And today we have a super special guest. Yeah. So, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, so it's Editing Lauren here, and I just wanted to let you know I was a little too excited, and I did not even mention her name. Her name is Tiffany, so Tiffany, please introduce yourself. Lauren here again. This should be the last interjection. So there's one thing that I want to mention is that throughout the interview, you'll hear me saying a lot of and that's because in Japanese you have this thing called aizuchi, and it's like when you're talking to somebody, you let them know that you're listening. And I thought I was doing a good job of not doing it so that it wouldn't interrupt the interview, but I did it a lot. So I'm just sorry. I'm just letting you know, if you hear that, it's just a thing I do now. Okay, anyway, enjoy the interview, hopefully.
Thank you, Laura. So my name is Tiffany, and I was born and raised in Japan, lived in America for 6.5 years, and now came back to Japan and working in Tokyo as a full-time worker. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited. So I reached out to Tiffany because I heard her story and I thought it was really fascinating. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I told her, I was like, I've been watching for years. I've been a silent looker. And since I'm doing this channel, you know, based on beauty and stuff, I want to give information, yes, for people who are coming from overseas to Japan to like purchase products and stuff. Let's, you know, moriageru the Japanese economy, but also people who are living here, like, and who don't have Japanese straight hair, like myself. I have 3C hair, and so you have, I would believe. Oh, well, we're gonna get into that later. No spoilers. But yeah, so I want to get that information out there. So, oh my gosh, I'm all over the place. Sorry, very excited. So yeah, so with that, can you then tell me, so what's your hair type and what's your hair story?
Yeah, thanks. So my hair type is 4C, and my hair story is when I was raised in Japan until age 12. Well, for myself, so both of my parents are African American, so my mom mainly did my hair, and so it was relaxed at the time until age, let's see, 12, 13, no, actually a little later, because I moved to America at age 13 and then decided to go natural when I moved there. So then I was natural for a few years and then decided to lock my hair 3 years ago. And it'll be 4 years this coming July. So yeah, so from relaxed to natural to locks. So.
Oh, damn. So yeah, you've been all over the
place.
Dang, that was actually one of the questions that I was going to ask you. Well, first, if you wouldn't mind explaining what I mentioned 3C and then you mentioned 4C, could you explain what that is for people who might not be aware of what that is?
Yes, absolutely. So I actually learned this myself when I moved to America. So I learned this thing called like a hair chart type, which basically is a chart that depicts how your hair type is, how based on how you were born. So there's like I believe there's 10 in total, and there's 4 ranges. 1 is like straight, so there's no variation to that, but 2 is wavy, 3 is curly, 4 is coily or kinky. In the ranges, there's like A, B, and C, which basically describes how curly or how wavy or how kinky or coily your hair is. So of that, I guess yours is 3C and then mine is 4C. So
okay, so it's like the type and then the degree of that type, kind of.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I said 3C, but it's not all 3C because some areas are doing.
Some areas, sometimes it's different.
Yeah, so I'm like, can we stop that? Can we a little bit of unity? Like, was it Oda Nobunaga? What is it? Oda Nobunaga who came in?
Oda Nobunaga. Little organization. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, please, can we get it together? Yes. Thank you so much. And I actually wanted to ask. That was one of the questions I had written. So you said that your mom relaxed your hair in Japan, but how did you get those products? Because as far as I know, I don't know how it is now, but like back in the day, how'd you get the relaxer boxes?
You know what? I'm glad you included this because I didn't really realize it myself. But I think what I assume happened is because when we were living in Japan, we visited America once a year or once every 2 years. So I think either one, every time we went to America, my mom just bought a whole bunch and brought it to Japan. Or I think my relatives may have sent it to Japan for us. But the reason why I think it's actually the first option is because it was a shopping spree for both my mom and my dad every time we visited America, because, you know, there's not enough clothes size for my dad or shoe size for my dad, and then you know, perhaps clothes might be an issue in terms of our sizing and everything. So I assume every time we went to America, we maybe took an extra luggage or empty suitcase to bring the things that we need. So
okay, yeah, because I was like, well, we had talked briefly about that on the gram, and the Japanese cosmetic license apparently like I can't do anything. So I just studied and I learned about stuff, but I learned that in order for you to be able to do people's hair and do people's stuff, you need a license, the Japanese like state license, and so with that you'd be able to do people's hair. But they start talking, you learn about chemicals and all that stuff, and so and I'm like, how would Japan be able to, like, do they even allow that to come into the country? you know all the chemicals that you be putting on your hair.
Right.
Okay, so
Like this.
all
But
right.
yeah, I think, I feel like I learned this also in America, where it's like Black people, we're just such like a community, right? And so I feel like it was common for your relatives to do your hair. Like, yes, maybe some people went to the salon and everything, but I think at the time there wasn't enough Black salons in general. So you always ask your auntie, your cousin who can do hair to do it for you. So I think maybe that culture was just in us too, where it's like,
Yeah.
we're just doing our own hair type of thing. So
That's true.
Yeah.
Yo, dang, that's mad. That's because she threw back the box. And how long have you been natural was one of the questions, but you mentioned, so 3 years ago was going to be coming up on your 4th anniversary, that the gorgeous locks. And but how long have you been natural in total?
I think it'll be, let's see, let me actually do the math out loud, because I stopped doing relaxers in 2014, did the big chop maybe that year also, and then locked my hair in 2021. So maybe 7 years, I would say.
Okay. And then what inspired you to go natural? Had you always wanted to, or were you just like, was it a whim of the moment?
Yeah, so my inspiration, and actually I have 2 reasons as to why I became natural. The first reason is because of culture. The second reason is because of my pride. I'll go with the cultural reason first. When I moved to America, it was 2011, and it was after the earthquake that happened in Japan. And when I moved to America, everybody was on Facebook, and everybody was, maybe some people were transitioning onto Instagram, but basically social media was becoming more of a thing, and people were sharing their stories more and more in that age, I feel like. And in that, I feel like the Black girls were sharing their natural hair journey, like from doing big chop maybe from 2009, 2010, and then seeing how their natural hair is now, which at the time was 2011. And so when I saw that, I realized that's something I could do too, because, the relaxer that they're putting in your hair is the same products that I'm using. So maybe I could do that too. So for culture, I feel like that was just a wave that I was living in at the time, 2010, 2011, and everybody trying to go natural and realizing how damaging using relaxers in your hair was. For the second reason, for pride, I personally went through a pretty hard time when I was in America, and one of them was understanding the culture, and specifically like the Black culture. And I say that because I was outed by like people who were Black and people who are not Black, saying that I'm not Black, either because of the way that I speak, the way that I behave, the way that I carry myself. Like, and some people will like try to compliment me to say, "Oh, Tiffany, I mean, I guess you're Black, but you're not like the other Black girls," as if that was gonna make me happy. You know what I mean? Like, and so I didn't like that. And so so along with my hair, there were other things that I was doing to make myself, I guess, more Black. And I hate to phrase it that way, but I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to, make more friends and everything. So I didn't like that people were outing me to say I'm different. And so I wanted to give one less reason for them not to say that I'm not Black, So so if I can do anything with the features that I have, or the DNA that I have to show that I'm Black, then going natural, I felt like was one of them. So it was a whole personal development process. So.
That's definitely like growing up in like I guess a different household, or like something that is quote unquote not the norm. Like I am not African American that grew up in Japan, but my dad is Black and I grew up in Miami. And so my mom, she didn't know how to do Black hair. And so like I think we did the relaxer boxes one time, but usually we go to the salon, and I had so much hair that the salon lady, bro, every time she saw my face, I was like, that's not how you should treat a child. Because it would take a long time. Yeah, like just finding your like identity, and like
I feel like we all went through it, one shape or form.
So it's really interesting hearing your stories. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, so then you decided to go natural. Yeah, I think those 100%. It's your experience, so 100% the reasons. But I'm super happy to hear that. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay. So I want to know, how do you maintain your locks in Japan? What's the maintenance process?
Yeah, so mainly I watch YouTube of other Black ladies who have like locks and everything. So for the like locking my roots, I mainly do it by myself, and then just go to a professional salon if like maybe once in a blue moon, like maybe once every couple months. I relock my roots with the interlocking process. So I have like the tool to kind of do it myself. And then I think sometimes like there's like just loose parts. So either for that, or if there's like a special event I'm going to attend, then I would get it done at a salon. But mainly I do it by myself. Wherever I feel like it's loose, I just kind of like retouch it. So.
Oh, damn. Okay. I have a friend from Jamaica. She had locks for a bit, and then I don't know what happened. She was like, okay. She chopped her hair, and now she has it really short. And yeah, she would also, I don't think I'd ever seen her do it herself. herself, but I think she'd mentioned talking about it, but it seems so, because it's so like intricate and like beautiful, and I'm like, just like how? Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, but I feel like, yes, some of the salons that I do go to, it was introduced by friends. Like, of course, it's not something you can look up in Japanese and it'll just pop up. And then you got to know if they actually know how to do it, right? So I asked all of my Black friends that I know, like, hey, where do you go? Where do you go? And then wherever they recommended, I just kind of went and just kind of like, yeah, became good friends with them. So
okay, all right, then, yeah. So I wanted to ask about like, oh, if you could spill the secrets, but if it's like, you know, you kind of got to know, kind of get in the know, then get to know Tiffany, and then maybe you can get an invite.
Oh no, yeah, no, I can introduce at the end. I got you.
Okay. All right, we gotta hook up. Okay. Yes. So aside from you like locking your hair or sometimes getting it done at the salon, is there any other kind of special maintenance that makes it difficult to do in Japan, or getting the tools? Or you said you used, what was the name of the tool that you used?
I think it's called a crochet needle, the one that kind of opens and closes, and yeah.
That's what my friend used. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I actually think my hair was harder to manage when I was an afro rather than now. I think in general, when you're an afro and a 4C also, I mean, I think it's the case for curly hair too. It's a lot to do to like keep it moisturized, and then you got to know how to style it, and then how to, you know, style it for the day and based on what weather it is, if it's going to rain, if it's humid, like things like that. So I feel like there was more cream I was putting in my hair, and definitely took a long time to wash my hair, like, you know, as we call it, a wash day, right? I think now with locks, it's not really a wash day. So as of right now, because I use less products than before, it's not as much of a struggle to get the products that I want. But the products that I do use in my hair currently are US based products. And I do test out sometimes Japanese products to see how they react in my hair. But I use like As I Am for the hair oils for the scalp. And then I use As I Am rice water, like spray, just for daily moisturizer. So in terms of products, those are really the main two that I use. And then for shampoo, it's not really harmful to use the Japanese ones. So I just get whatever I can get at the pharmacy. So
dang, there was something. Oh, this is what I had wanted to ask. This is more like so for you lock your hair, but can any type, I mean, to be honest, I don't think the ones are going to be able to lock their hair. This is my hinking. I could be wrong, but is there like a limit, a cutoff where, like, for example, let's say like the 3s and below, you could lock your hair, and it's like your hair, because it's naturally curly, it will stay like that? Or what's the process, if you could explain that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in terms of locking your hair, I think if you have type 4C, it's most suitable because, you know, it gets easily tangled and it stays that way, you know, and I think it kind of turns into a naturally like beautiful process. I don't know like what range is a cutoff, because I do see like some Caucasian people and even Japanese people who are locking their hair, but I think for like Japanese people, there's another process they do to like make their hair a bit kinky, because, you know, their hair is slippery, right? So maybe I would say Japanese people's hair may not naturally be suitable for locks, but I think if you just leave hair alone, if you don't deal with it, then I think they will lock, you know, to become locks anyways. But I think, you know, just how culturally, you know, they just keep it smooth and they keep it straight. So that oily and the way their hair texture is, I don't think it's naturally suitable, but I don't think it's impossible for whatever hair type you have to be locks.
Okay, because I'm like, as much as I do like, oh, like be your best, and it's so funny because my name is Be Your Best. I'll tell you right now, I'm not being my best every single day.
It's the effort that counts, you know.
The effort is lacking on the face. I'll be like, we gonna be. But from here, so because you mentioned that, like, you know, any hair type, if you kind of hold you just kind of let it sit, and I've had it happen so often, and like, I'll go with the wash day, something I'm working. But yeah, so my hair has naturally just like, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I was thinking, I've thought about getting locks before, but I don't know if it's a lot of maintenance. I don't know if I can do that, because I can barely.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I
mean, I have seen people with type 3 hair also with locks, but I think in terms of maintenance, you're gonna have to do it anyways, like regardless of what hair type you are. But I do think with type 4 hair, it was like a karamaru's easily, you know what I mean? Like it tangles easily, it wraps up easier, so it's not as much maintenance, but I don't think it's impossible. Like, and for me, I mean, if this helps anything, locking my hair throughout my whole hair journey was the best decision I've ever made for my hair. Like, I am so glad I did it, and now that I did it, I'm like, why didn't I do this earlier? I mean, I do have a reason why I didn't do it earlier, which I can share that bit too. But if you are even considering it a little bit, I would just go ahead and do it, you know.
That's the thing, is that hair grows back, right? So it comes to worst, if I'm like, oh no, I can't handle it, then, I could either, and I've seen even like, I think in doing the research for like putting together questions, I was looking into like dreads and like locks. This is else that I wanted to ask about with the Japanese and the difference. And so, yeah, like there, you can go to like a salon and then it's an extensive, long process, but you can get it undone. And I'm like, okay, it's not like a permanent thing. This is
right.
All right. So you're saying there's hope.
There's hope. There's definitely hope.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that you'd be willing to spill the beans on why you didn't
like my hair earlier.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was living in America, I went through a whole personal development process of learning more about my history and Black people and, relationship we have with America and things like that. And I noticed and saw a lot of news headlines about Black people being discriminated for their hair type and hair textures in the workplace and in school and, everywhere. Right. And so the first time I saw somebody who I knew, she was a classmate at my high school. She used to be natural and then transitioned to locks. So it was the first time I had seen the transition, I guess, right in front of me in a sense. So I was very curious and I always wanted to try locking my hair. But in the cultural climate at the time, I knew that maybe it was a bit risky, not for us doing it, but just how society reacts to us doing anything, right? And so I wasn't sure what I was going to do after I graduated. I wasn't sure what I was going to do for a job. So I wanted to at least know, have something stable, whether it's my own job or, my own place, and then know what I'm dealing with, then to make a decision. I graduated high school, came back to Japan, and then got a full-time job. And, I think at first I kind of carried the burden that we feel in America about, if you're discriminated in America, then you're going to be discriminated everywhere in the world. And so I was kind of concerned a little bit, like if I were to come to Japan, how, because I had only experienced Japan as a child, and as a child, I didn't really face anything, but you just never know how the adult world is. And this time it's Tokyo. Like I used to live in the countryside, where I knew every family last name, like, you know what I mean? And so because I didn't know what I was going to deal with, I was like, let me just wait. And I like my natural hair anyway, so let me just wait on it. And then I got my full-time job in February 2021, and then knew I was fine, and then locked my hair 5 months later. Yeah, but the reason why it took 5 months is I just needed to find a place to do it. Like I didn't know. I need to ask somebody, like a friend who had locks already, to get it done and everything. And of course, I was going through changes from university student to a full-time work and everything. So the only reason why it took 5 months because I didn't know where to get it done. So, but that's just how quick it was. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm gonna lock my hair.
Yeah, I got it. It's like not the same exact situation, but I remember when I wanted to change jobs. My last job, and I was like, as soon as I got my visa, then I was like, okay, I know that I could stay for this long. And so I told my company, I was like, hey, my contract ends at the end of this contract, and then I just started looking for jobs. So it's just like waiting until you get that security, and
right. Yeah.
Bam.
Once you know for sure, the green light.
Just go. And then another question I wanted to ask you now, related to this. So you said that you brought that, like, not insecurity, but like that kind of worry, right? Like in the States, how they are people like, oh, like, no, your hair looks like that kind of thing. But do you experience the same thing, or it was just similar to like it was just in your mind, but Japanese people didn't really have that perception of you with regards to hair?
That's a great question, and this goes beyond hair. I think the whole personal development that I went through in America, for me, it was just so heavy, and it seemed so atarimae, like it seems so normal, and to have the feeling that you're always going to be discriminated against because you were born Black. And I didn't know that feeling until I lived in America. And as an American myself, and obviously I have Black relatives, in America and everything, I thought that was the way to be because it was just that normal, right? And so I doubted my childhood for not knowing that. And I have another video out there of somebody interviewing my parents on the experience of them raising Black kids in Japan, things like that. And in that video, they shared that I was upset towards them for not teaching me about Black history or anything, and they have their own reasons. So maybe go watch the video if you're interested. But because it was just that normal in America, I was like, okay, maybe as an adult, I should carry that also for self-defense. Like, I feel like sometimes we want to protect ourselves. We just don't want anything to go wrong. You just never know what's going to go wrong as a Black person in America in general. So I didn't know if that translated to, Japan as well. But maybe I just didn't experience when I was living there because I was a child. I don't know what, but just in case. Because everybody thinks it's normal, let me just kind of bring that back, at least in the back of my head, And there have been situations where I would bring it up per se, but maybe I would bring it up. I'm not sure. I need to look back at the archives, and it just literally didn't matter. For one, it didn't matter. And two, yes, I can speak Japanese, but it actually feels really, really weird to talk about the issues in America in Japanese. It's not about translating per se. It's the concept. The concept we have in America is actually it's actually bizarre bizarre, but it sounds so normal in America because that's all we talk about, right? So it's ingrained into our culture to talk about it, and we know what we're talking about as soon as we say it. But if you actually say it in another language where that concept just doesn't exist, you sound crazy. You know what I mean? And so I realized that as I was bringing those up in the conversation, I'm like, and they're looking at me like they're interested, like they want to know, but the concept is so foreign that they're just like lost. And then I'm lost as I'm talking about it too. You know, it's like, oh yeah, this was an American thing, wasn't it? Like, you know. So it's definitely happened like in dates also. I do want to share this one part where I was on a date with a guy, and he approached me in an area that you don't see a lot of Black people, right? So when he approached me, I thought it was a little odd, you know. And he didn't look like the type that likes Black girls, if you know what I mean, right? And so we went for dinner, and I kind of wanted to like ask that question, like, do you like Black girls? Like, is that your thing? Like, I brought it up, and he like it wasn't even that he was trying to like, he actually only saw me as a woman. And I thought it was so crazy because I was the one like inputting that into his mind when that wasn't his intent at all. Like as he was answering the question, I was like, yeah, I guess you are the first Black girl I've approached. And I'm like, oh, I am so sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry for like turning that into that type of conversation, you know? And so if I had not internalized, you know, those feelings and those burdens, then it wouldn't have mattered at all. But now I gave him an awakening because of, you know, my insecurities and what I felt in America, you know? So I think that goes for hair, goes for our culture, like everything. So I think I have brought back a lot of, you know, the trauma that I felt in America. So
it's hard not to, bro. They be handing it out like
it's crazy, you know? Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was super awesome. And this reminds me of, this reminds me of just, this question, I've been so excited to ask about this because I love, the reason why I'm in Japan is because I love the language. I love Japanese. And so this stuck out to me and I was like, I need to know. Yeah. So I saw a couple of your videos to do like, you know, get a little bit of research. And I saw that when you were talking to Japanese people, you referred to your hair as dreads. You were like, ドレッド。
当時は髪型がアフロだったんですけど、ドレッドに変えたので、それも踏まえてお話ししたいなと思ってますので、最後までご覧になってください。
And so I was like, why toretto hair versus locks, and like, what's the difference? Is there a word for locks in Japanese? I feel like I'm asking you 8,000 questions at the same time, but I was just really like curious. I'm like, ooh, why?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question. So I think I remember, I forgot what year, like the year that we kind of switched the conversation to calling it dreads to locks. Either I was in America or I was in Japan. I'm not sure if it was before or after 2017. But I remember people were saying like the word dreads, it has a negative connotation and X, Y, and the third. And I think some people were saying it has a negative connotation because like it has like the feeling of dreading. And some people find that, and you know, corporate America doesn't find it professional because of the wording and how it looks and things like that.
Sorry, it's dread in English, right? Not in Japanese.
Oh yes, in English. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking about America right now. And like when the conversation first shifted in America about, you know, switching over from dread to locks, and so I was looking into why people were switching over, and just with that reasoning itself, it makes sense as to why people would want to switch a negative into a positive, because it is our natural hair. Like there's no reason for it to have a negative connotation at all. But not just with dreads, like the N-word or like other things that we find offensive, we've somehow found a way to make it positive. So I think dreads was just another one of those examples that we've, you know, showed resilience and, you know, turn into a positive thing. So let's no longer call it dreads, let's call it locks. But then there were other videos that were saying dreads is actually not a negative term, because the word dreading means like you fear something powerful, like, you know, like, and so it's supposed to be a positive thing. But I think just in recent culture, some people took it as negative and things like that. So all to say, I don't think we're even settled in America, like how we're actually accurately supposed to call it. But traditionally, we do call it dreadlocks. And because traditionally we call it dreadlocks, that's how it is called in Japanese. You know, Japanese has like some shortened things. So they may not say doretto rokusu, but they say doretto. So that's the terminology that they know in terms of this hairstyle, right? So the reason why I called it dreads in my video when introducing this hairstyle is, like, I think in America, because we're still getting to know ourselves, our own history, you know, we just got a National Museum of African American, you know, history and culture in 2016, right? So that just became a thing. We're all getting to know ourselves, right? But this process of us getting to know ourselves is not going to end anytime soon. I don't think. I think it's still going to continue, especially with the current cultural economy that's going on in America right now. So without that being settled, I don't want to confuse Japanese people, you know, while we're not settled, because Japanese people don't know anything about Black culture. I don't think, at least they don't know it accurately, right? So, but what they do know is something like this, we call it doretto. So I wanted to educate them from the point that they know something. Like they know that this is doretto. So I don't want to then say that it's locks and then they'll say, well, I thought it was doretto. Like I wanna go into a smooth transition as to, what you're seeing. Yes, we call it, some people call it dreads, some people call it locks. And I would like to have a separate conversation to say, this is why some people call it dreads, this is why some people call it locks. But with the lack of knowledge there is right now in Japan, I think to immediately call it, or to force down their throats to say call it locks, I think it's too overwhelming because that's just how much they don't know. So that's why initially I'm calling it dreads.
That's interesting. I was so legit. I promise you, I was at that part of the video. I was like, oh, what's going on? Yeah. Because even like when I was looking into it, I was looking online and I was like, oh, what's the difference between dreads and locks? And then within the English space, people were like, oh, there's not really any difference. Then some people were saying like what you had mentioned about like, well, we don't like the fact that there's that, what is it, connotation of like fear, connotation to have, so we want to call it locks. And then some people were like, oh, like the difference between dreads and locks is like with dreads there's kind of like a religious, almost kind of like from the Rastafarian, they're like, oh yeah, like that could be kind of mixed in, so this has a more like religious connotation. I'm like,
see, I didn't, yeah, we're just listening in, like I'm just like, what status are y'all on now? You know what I mean? Like it's always evolving,
gotta check in. Everyone's like, how we doing?
What's going on?
Thank you so much. That was super awesome. Very interesting question. So I had wanted to ask, I've written it here, but you had already mentioned some of the products that you use. What was the one,
As I Am.
As I Am. And I think you had shown that in one of your videos, like a hair gel, or like what kind of product is that?
Yeah, so they have a wide variety, but if I did share it, it probably was a cream. I probably used it back when I had an afro. But right now I use just the hair oil scalp for my scalp, and then the hairspray just to moisturize, my roots. So, but actually these two, coincidentally, I got it because I visited America for Christmas and New Year's this past like 2 weeks ago. And so I got it then and just brought it back here. But before then, so sometimes my mom sends me products. So that's how I also get it. Yeah. So I've been using it. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask if you could, have you ever bought it on iHerb, or it's just you get it going back to the States, or from your mom?
Yeah, so I've actually never purchased on iHerb, but I think with the products that I use, I can get on Amazon. I think that's why I've never reached out to or tried iHerb. So I think like products like As I Am, or let's say Shea Moisture, or Cantu, I think those are pretty well known. Like Odo dakara, I feel like still it's available on Amazon, but maybe like the up and coming emerging brands may be hard to get. But for me personally, I don't need anything that extravagant, so I just kind of get those. So
okay, gotcha.
No problem.
Okay, and then I think it's kind of like around the similar thing. Yeah, so I think we kind of covered that. And then this is what I had wanted to ask. I'm also interested in this. So like how do you feel about the word kusege in Japanese? And if you could explain like in Japanese and like, how you're feeling towards that.
Yeah, sure. So the word kusege, well, first the word kuse means, how do you say kuse in English? Like a habit. It kind of means like a bad habit. And so to combine that with ke, like with hair, kusege, it means like it's a hair with the bad attitude, like a bad habit. Like, so it's a hair type that's out of place, basically. So I do think the word kusege is used in Japan like towards people who naturally have curly hair, because in Japan, because it's a homogenous society, most people have their hair straight, and so if it's anything other than that, they tend to call it kusege, which I do. I don't think the word itself is bad, because I do think, in a homogenous society, when something is out of place, then it makes sense as why they would think it's a kuse, like, like that to me makes sense. But I don't think people who are born with naturally curly hair should be referred to as kusege, because I don't know if you notice, like some Japanese people, like they wake up, like kusege is mainly like if you wake up and you didn't put a bonnet on, or you didn't like wrap it up well, or you didn't braid it, then it's like it's your naturally straight hair, but here's like a triangle, or like it's just completely, like that to me is an accurate kusege. You know what I mean? Like it's not supposed to be there, but it is. But also, again, it makes sense as to why Japanese people would feel like curly hair is kusege, because it's not straight, just from that fact. But I do think the conversation about black hair is just now emerging. Like it's not a common thing, because I didn't know either when I was raised in Japan about curly hair at all. It's just my mom doing my hair and everything. So I think once people know that, just because your hair is born curly does not mean it means kusege, then I think it will change. But until then, I think they will continue to call our hair as kusege. So I don't fully blame them,
Mm, yeah, it's hard because it's like as like, and I think it's so interesting from your position because it's like you're not Japanese, but you grew up in Japanese society, so you have a different perspective from someone like me who I came here and I've been living here, but like yeah, like it's like you're integrating yourself into society. I'm here, I'll pay my taxes just like if anyone you're watching, I pay my taxes, I pay my pension. And so you're paying, whatever, you're doing your stuff, you're contributing to society, you're integrated in society, but you're not Japanese and you're not fully a part of that. So it's like it's like you can have your opinions on like, well, I don't know about this. I don't know how I like feeling about being called like my hair is kusege when like you mentioned temporary, like I'll wake up and my hair is just kind of like it's all over the place all day every day if I don't do anything.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's like for me, it's like even though I'm not Japanese, I've had Japanese people comment saying it's interesting to hear Tiffany's perspective because I guess from my perspective, some Japanese people do call me Japanese, but I don't consider myself Japanese. But they'll say like it's as if she's Japanese, she just looks different, And I think that's because being born and raised here, understanding the language and culture. So I think sometimes my perspective isn't a foreigner perspective because I was raised here. So
yeah, it's super interesting. So I really wanted to hear that it was just really interesting. Yeah, the印象に残ったのが, yeah, like you can't fully blame them, but it's so okay, that's really interesting. And then this I want to ask, so did people touch your hair without your permission when you were growing up in Japan or in America as well? Did you experience that?
Yeah, definitely didn't experience in America because the cultural climate. But when I was in Japan, when I was younger, I never had the impression of it being harmful or offensive for someone to touch your hair without permission. They touched my hair the same way I touched and played with their hair, So it was an equal relationship. So like whenever they're playing with my hair, I would play in their hair, things like that. So I never had the impression that it was a bad thing until I moved to America and understand like the cultural nuances and everything. So yeah, I guess in that sense, I hate to call myself like innocent, but like I just really just didn't know. Like I just had no reason to know. And I guess that goes back to your original question right before, because I remember being the person going to America and not knowing about Black history, Black hair, Black culture, and so on and so forth. And from not knowing, I remember being expected to know because I'm Black, right? And so I was outed for not knowing. And so whenever I would ask, saying like, hey, could you tell me more about this? I'm not quite sure about this. Instead of them sitting down with me and teaching me what it is, they would just mock fun of me for not knowing, even though I'm Black. So the Black people will say I'm not Black. The non-Black people will say they're more Blacker than I am because they know more rap songs, they know more about Black culture than myself. And so I just remember the feeling of being condemned for and being embarrassed for not knowing. So now with Japanese people, if there's some people who want to know, there's some people who, are interested in knowing, the last thing I want to do is to condemn them and to make fun of them for not knowing. Like then that's me being the person that I needed when I was younger for not knowing. So now that I'm back in Japan, if I were to internalize the experience I had in America and to, I guess, be a bit more sensitive of people touching my hair, then people like now who want to touch my hair, I probably would say no. But I don't say no because I was that same person going to America saying, hey, I want to touch your hair because, people have different hair types. And without knowing anything, just the slight negativity of like, don't, like, what are you doing? Like that scares you a little bit. It's like, what did I do wrong? And so I don't want to give that feeling to them. And it's like, sekkaku, like if they're interested, like tell them, just they're like, they're interested. Like why turn them into an enemy by giving off negative vibes when you could actually reel them in to introduce yourself, as a Black person and someone who knows about Black culture. So yeah, I say all that to say, even if someone were to touch my hair now, even though I do understand the American conversation about touching somebody's hair without permission, I don't do that here. So I try to go back to how I was in Japan as much as possible.
That's such an interesting stance. Like it reminds me of two things. One is I remember when I was teaching in the high school, the kids sometimes they would like want to touch my hair, and I'm like I know they haven't seen curly hair, so like for them I know it's like for like a better, it's like what is going on, like what. Like just like why is it like that? And so I understand. So like let them, it's trying to find the line of like where to not, well yeah, I guess entertain their curiosity, but not like in a also don't make fun of me kind of way. Like
right.
braids. Your
Right.
life is in my hand, kind of thing.
Right, exactly. But I do think, like, with the history in America, I think even if someone were to innocently try to touch your hair, it does come offensive because we've been mocked of and made fun of. Like, we have a history and culture of that for the past 400 years, but
Yeah.
that not existing in Japan, right? The same actions mean two different things in two different, countries. So I try not to bring an American narrative into Japan when they don't have a history with Black people, the same way they do in America. So
yeah. So even I don't know if you've ever seen the paper Pat.
Good morning, Mr. Patrick. I don't know. Right here. Mr. No. Oh, no, Bobby, don't touch
Mr.
my hair.
Patrick, why is hair explosion?
Well,
yeah.
Talks about that too all the time. The kids obviously they're interested in his hair and the way that he goes about it. It's the same approach that you have. It's like they're just kids, and so it's like him dealing with baby Tiffany, right? Like she's just curious, and so then he's like, oh yeah, like they're just curious, like that's it. They don't have a connotation like that's leave that in America. Is that what he said?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All right, that was super interesting. All right.
Yeah, and actually, if I can share one more thing about that, I remember there was an older lady. She was a janitor at a bathroom, at a public bathroom, and I was washing my hands. And you know how like, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. In Japan.
Okay. Japan.
Yeah. So there's a memory in Japan, and I was at a public bathroom, and there was a lady janitor, and you could just, how there's like a Japanese way of like they want to talk to you, but they're not saying anything, and they're not really looking at you 100%, but you can just feel that they want to talk to you, And of course she knows, I mean, she was in her maybe like 60s or 70s. I know she doesn't know like the Black conversation we have about in America, but I don't think she knew if I spoke Japanese, like, you know what I mean? Like she just saw me as a complete foreigner. But I knew she wanted to touch my hair. Like I could just tell. And I actually don't know at this point that she knew I spoke Japanese, but she just said out loud, like, "Kaminoke kirei desu ne," and like just whispered, right? And because she said that, I was like, "Sawarimasu ka?" And you should have seen the joy in her eyes. Like she was super excited. I don't know if it's because I spoke Japanese or because she could touch Black hair for the first time. I don't know which one, but just the joy that you could feel. So imagine if I had the spite of, "Don't try it, girl." Like, you know what I mean? That would have, I would have never seen like the smile on her face. So, I know there's a lot of people like that. So that, I guess, is my other reason to, not keep the negativity, but to just stay positive about it.
That's a really cute story. I've heard stories similar to that of other like Black creators that they come and then they talk about like not just from like the States, but from like different places in Africa or whatever. And then it talk about how like there's that like they want to talk to you, they don't know, and then like maybe they'll say something or they'll just like emotion, and then the creator they give into that, like not give into that in a bad way, but like they're like, and then like the Japanese person they're so just like, oh, like they got to experience this thing that they wouldn't, they got to interact with someone who is completely different from them, and they had a positive. It was great for both parties, and I'm like, dang, how the world should be.
Love. Yeah.
Okay, and then I had wanted to ask, so like what I think though we touched on it though, like I think we had kind of touched on it, but if you wouldn't mind, if you feel like expand on, so like what do you think is Japan's attitude towards Black hair and curly hair now in the year of our Lord 2025?
Yeah, I think the attitude on it is, I guess kind of what I said before, because it's a homogenous society. I think it's natural to think the standard of how hair should be is Black and straight, which these days Japan is having their own conversation about, people born with naturally brunette or brown hair, and now they're being forced to dye it Black when they're in school. Like, that they're having their own conversation about that, right? But they haven't gotten yet to like the curly hair, shenanigans. Maybe they have, I just haven't been tapped in. But I do think because the standard is to have it straight, at least if it's not straight, then it's, not it. And so when people of like mixed race or people who are half are born with like naturally curly hair or even wavy hair, then their first thing is to get a relaxer to get it straightened, which it's your own hair, it's your own decision. If you want to relax it, great. But I think because I did it too, when I was younger, thinking that was a standard, right? So I can't be telling somebody else when I did it myself. But what I learned from my transition of moving from Japan to America and learning about natural hair is that it's not that I didn't like my hair, I just didn't know how to deal with it. But once I learned how to deal with my own hair, then I now know how to do so many different styles and so many different, with the right tools and the right products. So again, I think for Japan, it's still not an emerged conversation 100%. So I think they just don't know how to deal with their hair. And the only thing they do know is what their friends are doing by doing it straight and from straight, making it wavy or curly and things like that. So I think it's just from lack of knowledge. So I think, yeah, the attitude is that keeping it straight is the norm. I think it's the attitude.
Oh, okay. All right. It's so, and it's interesting coming from America, which is, and well, I come from, I was raised in Miami. And so it's funny because it's like, yes, it's more international, but also it's like mostly Hispanic people. So it's not as international, I would say, as maybe some other parts like New York or something. Have like more variety of people. So coming from there to like coming to Japan and just being constantly reminded that homogeneity,
Homogenous.
yeah, the homogeneousness of the, I'm sorry, I keep trying to use words, but yeah, so the homogeneousness of Japan, and just sometimes it's almost like seeing people and I'm like, dang, like it's weird to think that like I don't look like them and that my hair doesn't look like them, but like they probably don't even think about it that much.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but it's just that thing where it's just like that, the American
Yeah, agree.
All right, so thank you so much. So do you have any osusume salons for black hair or curly hair that you want to share?
Yes, there are several places. The place that I go to pretty often is called Gino. Oof, we're gonna have to put a username on this, but it's called Gino Hair, I believe. And she was introduced by a friend, and it's in Asakusa area. And I go to her for retwisting my locks, and she dyes my hair black, like pitch black. And so any retwist, I mainly go to her the most. The second place I go to is a place in Omotesando. In Omotesando, there is a hair salon where there is a person from Africa, either Africa or Jamaica. I forgot like which one, but she is of African descent. And she also retwisted my hair. I think I saw them on like a TikTok or something, like where they interview foreigners that go into there as a salon. And so I went there for a Juneteenth gala event that we did in Tokyo. I did my hair like kind of professionally done, like it was like twistings, like a little bob. So she styled my hair and everything. So that's the second place I recommend. But the place that I first got my locks done is called like Works Hair Design or something like that. We'll also put something here. But they locked my hair from natural to locks. And so the way I was introduced there was a friend of mine who was half Ghanaian, half Japanese. He was, we attended the same university. And so because I knew he had locks, I was like, hey, where do you go? And then I was introduced there. So I would say any of those three places, at least they know how to do black hair. And so it might otherwise, it might just depend on what style you want to get. But and then I think there's other places where you can get like your braids done. I can't think of off the top of my head, but I do know some places. Maybe we can list it in like the description box or something. So yeah.
Okay. But I was taking notes, but for the Omotesando place, do you know their name? And we'll look it up after, but if off the top of your head.
I do assort braids.
I had not put this on the list of questions, but it just came to me right now because you mentioned braids. Have you ever gotten braids done in Japan or in the States?
I did. More in the States. In the States, I got Senegalese twists, Havana twists, box braids, I believe, and a few others. I even did so for graduation, I did like it's a straight hair, but it's like a braided crochet needle, like straight. And so I just covered this part with the Sotsugo cap. So you can't like see the tracks and everything. So I did my hair straight and everything. But in Japan, I did get my braids done. I did like a half cornrow, half like braid, like plaited braid. And for that, I also got it done like in Shibuya, which actually, if I may share about this, because, I went to them and they only speak Japanese. And I asked them, like, where did you get the skills to like, learn about how to do braiding and everything? And apparently the owner sends her workers to Atlanta like every year to get training in Atlanta and then bring those skills back in Japan. I was like, okay, you are doing it. Like not sending them to Atlanta, like, like that's the way to do it. And but I don't know where they got their skills from exactly, but the way that they were braiding, like, I mean, I braid my own hair sometimes. I don't use my pinky. Okay. These ladies, they were using all 5 fingers to braid, but it was perfection. But I was like, this is true professionalism. And so, but yeah, so she has like a little system to like, make sure she gets like the real deal, like in Atlanta and everything. I believe that's the only place I got my hair braided at. It's called Knot, like NAUGHT, and it's in Shibuya area. I don't know if they're still operating, but that's where I went back when I was in Afro. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't think no, I've gotten my hair braided once in Japan. There was this lady is unfortunate. She is alive, thank you, Jesus. Because I say unfortunately, and I'm just my mind goes so much. No, she is not in Japan, but she is well and doing. She does. Oh, her stuff was so beautiful, and her page. She shares her work. That's her portfolio. But yeah, so I've only gotten my hair braided. I think once with her as an adult, because I got it once as a. I think was it Dominican Republic or something. My mom, because she doesn't have
right.
type of hair, so she's like whatever she could do to get it to not do whatever it is that it naturally does. Yeah, so I've only got it done once at that place, and then once in Miami after like I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, and that was cool because in the States you get everything. And I went to a hair shop and I got like half pink and half blue, and that was fun. But
nice.
But then why did I bring this up? Because you mentioned the curly hair, the Atlanta lady. There's a lady who I don't know if you've ever heard of Nepenji. So it's a salon for curly hair girls. And so the lady, I don't know that she has the similar system where she sends her people away, or she the people who have been away, but people who worked with her, they've gone to the States. So at least some of the people went to the States and they learned about the curly hair method. And there was one Japanese lady, she was so sweet, and she was like, man, I really want to go to the States. And like she loves hair. Like she's just like, I want to deal with like all different kinds of hair in America. So much bright. And then she's like, yo, the green card. And I was like, dang, girl. Get it, girl. So there are people like that, cultural ambassadors in Japan, trying to learn, and they're trying to
they're going to the source. Like they're going to the real place. Like it's amazing.
So thank you so much. That was super awesome.
Thanks for sharing that.
Okay, and then my last couple of questions, just a little quick wrap up is, so like what's your skincare routine look like, girl? Because you glowing, you need to share.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'm just now getting into the skincare routine myself. Before, I think in general, just as my personality, I was never really into beauty or care. Like, not that I was going by bare minimum, but maybe I was going bare minimum. And so, now that I went back to America this past 2 weeks, I just had to get some products there. So I don't really have a set routine of products like in Japan that I use. But what I do now, maybe it's the essentials of what everybody does. But in the morning, I wash my face, do a little toner, and then I have like a serum that gets rid of like the hyperpigmentation, because I have a really bad habit of picking my face. So I like the acne scars like tend to stay behind. I think the skin has been much better from before, thanks to the routine I'm doing. And so and then I do like a face cream. So that's for the morning. And then at night, similar, but I use like a vitamin C, like it's not a whipped cream, but it's cream that's like very, very light, and it feels like it's like whipped, like that's how light it is. So I use that at night. And then that one skincare that was like on TikTok where it's like a face mask that you leave overnight and then it gives you like glass skin. So I just got that. So I'm using that now at night. So yeah, that's my little routine, I would say.
Oh, okay. And do you use mainly Japanese products or American products?
For sunscreen, I use a Japanese one by Biore.
Oh.
And then say what?
Oh, sorry. Do you remember which one in specific? Because they have a couple of series.
It's blue and it's like kind of watery a little bit. But I was introduced that by another African American friend, saying, because he's a scientist, he has a science background, and he follows another Black influencer who like knows her stuff, and she introduces like sunscreen from all over the world that works. And for Japan, she recommended that one for Biore, like the one that you can get at Donkey, like it's like And so I use that for sunscreen, and then I guess like for basic essentials like face wash, body wash, I use Japanese stuff. But any like serum, I use like The Ordinary. I don't know if you've heard of that brand. Yeah, I use that one mainly. So yeah, it's kind of mix of Japanese products and American products.
Thank you so much. Also, I'm so sorry I cut you off. You were about to say something, and then I got excited and asked the question. But if you remember, if you could bring it back.
I probably forgot myself too.
Okay. All right. Then no,
But-
I'm pretty sure I know which one, the Biore one. Is it like a blue kind of like a
Tube.
little like
Yeah.
and then it has like an orange thingy and it comes out, it's really liquidy.
Yeah. That one.
I think I know what you're talking about.
That's what I use. Yeah. That's the sunscreen
Okay.
I use.
All right, we got some good info here on the sunscreen. And do you usually wear like foundation and makeup?
Right now I only have like eyebrows, a little corner eye here, mascara, and a little bit right here. I don't usually wear foundation again because I have a bad set of picking my face, so anything I touch becomes brown. So I know it's a bad habit of me where it's like, okay, I could just stop that habit, but I'm like, no, because I have that bad habit, let me just not wear foundation. You know?
Oh,
So I don't use foundation. Only I use a foundation like if I'm going to like an event or someone's funeral, unfortunately, or someone's wedding. So no, I'm not too much into foundation at the moment. But the foundation I do use is by Fenty, I believe. And this I also got when I went to America and I went to Sephora, and they just like matched to my skin tone. So
okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask because I know Japan does not have the widest variety.
not the widest variety at all.
Yeah, so recently I don't know if you'd heard of like the tier 2 cushion. So I was wondering, I was like, oh, like maybe she tried it, but then you know.
Yeah, so I mean, just as a personality, I'm just very hesitant to try something new so immediately. And so just from how quick it happened, I was wondering how long it's gonna last. Like, you know what I mean? And I think it is a Korean company, like so I mean, nothing against their effort for putting in more variety. I think it's great, but I would rather other people use it and I get more reviews to see how it actually is. So I'm waiting till I feel comfortable to like use it. So, but I think it's great that they're making a wider variety for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean it makes sense. Like the thing is, it's something that you pay for with your hard-earned money, with your hard-earned cash. If someone is more to be the guinea pig, go be free.
Go for it by all means. But I think also I think in general, like with Black people's hair products, also like I don't know if you remember that phase where Shea Moisture was kind of canceled a little bit, Cantu was canceled a little bit, and then from there, Black people who they're smart and they know their science and they know like what to put in their hair and everything, they were making their own products. So now it's like an ocean of small to medium business owners, making their own products, right? Where no longer there is like the old or like what main people use. And so I think it's great that they're going more simple and it's like homemade and it's like great and everything. But because we're all again learning ourselves now, I think it's gonna take time to at least show sort of anything that comes out. So I think that includes foundation, that includes sunscreen, that includes any hair products for us Black people, because not all information was available for us because there was no information about us. We weren't the main market to America, right? So I think all of this is going to take a long process. So, and that combined with my personality to being hesitant on trying something new immediately, I'm gonna wait on the influencers to do their thing, and then maybe I'll buy into something. So,
okay, all right, that's some good advice, especially now. This is a little bit of a last thing is that have you heard of Medicube?
I have. Oh, that's the brand I use for the face mask. I think that's the one I use.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. Mask. So
yeah.
You ain't be about trying that new stuff, and now you putting this on your face. So they have. No, it's an interesting thing that came up is that there's this young lady who on TikTok, she talked about how she got Bell's palsy. I didn't know what that was until the video. I don't know if you know what that was, but essentially half of her face got paralyzed and some nerve. And she was talking about how she was like, look, I'm not saying that this is what the cause is, but this Medicube device, I used it just for 2 days and then half of my face got paralyzed. So Bell's palsy, you can recover from it. It can take a while. And so what's interesting is that you have all these people talking about all these influencers and stuff like that. And to be honest, I want that. It's so funny. I did not think about talking this today. I was like, I had so many story podcasts just me by myself talking. Interesting that you mentioned like being cautious about trying new things because their device, I've been wanting to try, and I have other of their devices, but like seeing that, you're like, this is stuff that is new, that is like, I think it came out, maybe the Booster Pro I think came out like a year ago or 2 years ago, and then their older devices for sure that came out 2 or 3 years ago. But then now you're seeing potentially the effects of like what this device could potentially
right, the results,
yeah. So it's just like, yeah, like playing the waiting game. Some people, they'll, you know, jump on board, and that's fine. And I think the majority of people won't have them, but there is the chance. So I think that's a smart game to play, just to like see down and see like, oh, like, you know.
But actually, I was just reminded just now, because now I'm have my antennas up. So the MediQ one, I think, was the main brand that was represented in terms of like the overnight collagen mask. But I think I actually wanted to get that one. I tried to order on Amazon, but they were sold out. So I have like the dupe of it. So which is more scary because, you know, I don't know if it's like less or more or whatever harmful thing. So we'll see. Right now my face looks pretty fine. So let's just hope and pray that nothing happens. But thank you for that information, because it's definitely necessary. So
yeah, no, it's no problem. Also, we gotta do what we do, you know, be like that.
Do. It's all experiment, you know.
Okay, but yeah, so that's it for any questions for me. Do you have anything that you want to tell our audience? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, so I think you said your audience is mainly like catered towards English speakers, so this may or may not be helpful, but ever since you gave me like this opportunity to speak, it kind of inspired me to want to share about Black hair as well. And so in Japanese, I am going to be launching a newsletter speaking about Black people's hair. It's all be going to be free. Like basically whoever signs up, I'll have their email addresses to then send every month. And the reason why I want to do this kind of goes back to your question also. So I'm glad we're talking about this, where, you know, Japanese people just doesn't know about anything about Black culture. Whatever they think they know, I think they know just the surface, you know, just the tip of the iceberg. And so, and I did notice a lot of my friends are interested to know more about Black culture, but they don't know who to ask. They don't know if it's okay to ask with everything that's going on ever since George Floyd and everything. And so I feel like sometimes the people who are okay with sharing their interests with me, they'll say, Tiffany, I'm like interested. I just, you know, there's nothing to look up. Or if you do look up something, it's very like surface level. Like they don't know the why and everything. And so I thought learning about Black hair would be a good first step, a fun first step to getting to know our culture, because I feel like everything is you know, in the history and, you know, in what you see in our hair and everything. So for me, this purpose really is just to spread the information and spread the knowledge. And from that, if they want to get to know our history more, then they can also. But I feel like it's just a good introduction. So I have launched the signups now. So I'll be starting in March of the newsletter. So hopefully this will turn out for the best. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's so awesome. Congratulations. I actually, sorry, this reminds me, I did have the question about your seminar, because I saw that you had posted yeah. And then I want to ask you about that. I'm so sorry. You mind? I just want phone. I'm so sorry. Let me just plug it in. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, am I back?
Nice.
All right, sweet. But yeah, so I had mentioned, and then I was like, oh, I think that she had talked about it. I think that she had mentioned this, so I was like, oh, I kind of skipped the question. But you did do a seminar on Black hair, and I thought it was interesting that some people, they were like, oh, like we didn't know that people use these kind of products like do-rags and things like that. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your seminar? I think if it's connected to, you know.
Yeah. I think this all happened so quickly too. To share a little bit of history of how it happened. So I have a friend who is now she's a Japanese friend, born and raised in Fukuoka Prefecture, but she's now in America because she has her own like hair and makeup team in Japan. But whenever there is an ask for doing a hair and makeup for people who are half or mixed, or people with Black people's hair or darker skin tones, they go to her because she's just that good at her job. But living in Tokyo, because there's not much of an opportunity to do those type of jobs, to learn more about different skin shades and, you know, hair types, she's now in New York with a visa to now work with like hair and makeup, you know, as a hair and makeup artist in New York at the moment. So from there, she's getting like firsthand experiences at salons and with the jobs that she's getting and everything. And she visits Japan once a while, and whenever she does come back, we obviously meet up and everything. And this time she wanted to teach some of the knowledge that she learned in New York to some of her friends and connections of hair and makeup artists here in Japan. And in doing so, because we talk a lot on the phone, and I can tell she's seeing firsthand of Black culture and how we are in America and how history has built. So there's certain topics about Black hair that she's not comfortable sharing because she's not Black and because she's Japanese. And so with some topics, she wanted me to represent as a Black person to share in the seminar, like about Black people's hair, like just kind of the basics, essentials, and things like that. So from that, she was like, hey, Tiffany, like, as a job, would you like to, kind of host with me this event? I was like, absolutely. I was kind of born and raised and lived in America for that, and so I decided to join, and that inspired me to kind of start, this other thing that kind of consulting thing that I've recently started. But in that event, there were maybe 10 people of all her connections of all Japanese of hair and makeup artists, and they have one way, shape, or form dealt with either a client or a model that has different hair textures and different skin shades, and sometimes they don't know how to deal with it because it's different from what they're usually used to. So from teaching it, probably you saw in the reviews, like they were just super ecstatic. It's like, first time, like you just never know, and there's no other place to really go to, or not, you don't know what to look up to get this information. So I think for me, that review meant everything more than actually doing the event. And so I think just with my experience, I feel like it's combining literally every bits and pieces of experience that I've had born and raised in Japan, living in America, and making that into something. So really, really happy to be a part. And just from their reactions, like you said, like there were just so many things that they didn't know and they were interested. And so I was just happy to see that and to make it happen. So I'm hoping to do more of those events, and I think that also inspired me to do the newsletter, because there really is so much to know when you don't know anything. So I feel like there just has to be some type of consecutive information, juices flowing. And so from that, I decided to do the free newsletter for people who are interested.
Dang. Okay. And then I had like 3 questions attack me at the same time. Please get in line. Ask.
Yes,
So you had said it was in Japanese. So right now, initially the newsletter will just be in Japanese, correct? But do you have like, sorry, I asked the question and then I'm going to ask another question. But do you have like visions of the future, for example, having an English also department added, or like stuff like that?
Yeah. So yes, it is in Japanese. Thank you for that question. And I plan to keep it in Japanese. And the reason is, this is also just thinking back on my experience of being born and raised in Japan and not knowing Black people's hair. And the reason why I'm doing this free kind of connects to this reason as well. But being born, whether if you're mixed with Black or if you're with another race and you have just naturally curly hair, knowing how to do your hair is a natural thing to know as you're growing up as a human being. Like as you're growing up, you learn how to take care of your hair, how to, wash up yourself, and how to do your hair is a set as to growing up as a young person. But unfortunately, when you're in Japan and this homogenous society and you're born with different hair textures, then it's not in the culture to learn your own hair if you're born with curly hair. So I think that's the type of people I'm trying to reach at, where to also give the comfort that it's not your fault that you don't know. Like you're just in a society that it's, that like it's shikatanaku wakannai. It's nothing to like blame, you know what I mean? And so by doing a newsletter in Japanese, I'm thinking it's going to help people who are mixed. It's going to help moms who are Japanese that doesn't know anything about Black people's hair. It's going to help hairstylists who may deal with, people who are mixed and everything, on how to deal with it and to not damage it, right? Because if you don't know the hair, you may be at risk to damaging it without you even knowing it, even though you're a professional, right? And perhaps I'm hoping for this to reach like people in the cosmetic world who may want to create a new product that caters to, Black people's hair and curly hair and things like that. And so again, this is reaching out to give information of the things that you quote unquote should know as you're growing up, but shikatanaku, again, like you don't have that in Japan because it's a homogenous society. So that's why I'm keeping it in Japanese, and that's why I'm keeping it as a free service.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So, yeah, that's why you mentioned you were like, oh, English audience, but it's going to be in Japanese. But for those of you who are watching, if you're trying to learn Japanese, this is a great way to learn.
Great way to learn Black hair in Japanese.
So, let's go.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
I think that's it for my questions. I mean, I feel like there's like so much that I can ask, but also.
There's so much, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this was so much fun. Let's do another session too. That'll be fun.
Oh, okay, sweet. Thank you so much. Happy to hear from you because I'm like, I would be down, but I don't know if you would be down. But then
I'm so
rejection.
down.
Thank you so
So
much.
down.
ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much. Okay, see you guys.